From the Ticats Audio Network, this is Ticats Today with Louie B.
Yes, it is Ticats Today for a Thursday, May the 12th, 2022. Louie B on the Ticats Audio Network. Thanks for checking us out, and thank you for tuning in all off season. As I'm very excited to say, this is the final off-season edition of Ticats Today, and starting next week, we are back at camp bringing you all the news and notes you need to know. So thank you for all your support during the off-season, and can't wait to kick off another season here on the Ticats Audio Network. All right, we got a great show for you coming up in just a little bit. The CFL on TSN's Glen Suitor going to be by. Lots to get into with him, with the started training camp just around the corner. Drew Allemang, Assistant GM and Director of Canadian Scouting. He'll be by to talk about the 2022 draft class, the 2022 rookie camp that's underway at McMaster as we speak, and get his thoughts heading into camp. And we're going to hear a little bit from Jackson Cirillo-Brown, the Ticats' 8th round pick in last week's draft. Hamilton boy out of UBC, and lots to get to with him. Our full conversation with Jackson is up on Ticats.ca, so we'll play just a little bit for you here on Ticats Today on the Ticats Audio Network. And speaking of, a couple of great interviews going out this weekend. One of them, Dane Evans, quarterback one. He and I sat down for about half an hour last week, or earlier this week, and we really talked about everything. We talked about him being a first-time dad or getting set to be a first-time dad. We talked about his relationship with Jeremiah Masoli, dealing with injuries last year, being the guy, quarterback one this season. We talked about his early days in the CFL, so nothing was off limits. And I took that to heart. It was a great 30-minute conversation with Dane Evans, and as somebody who thought I knew him pretty well, I learned a lot more about him after that chat, and I recommend you check it out when it drops on the Ticats Audio Network tomorrow. Should be ready about 9 a.m. And then on Saturday, brand new interview, with Simone Lawrence, the 10-year CFL vet. 9 of those with the Cats, longest-serving active Ticat, all-time leading tackler in Ticats history, and getting set, as mentioned, for his 9th season with the Black and Gold. And again, I've watched Simone up close for a long time, and it's always great to talk football with him. And for as well as I know him, I learned a few things about him after that interview as well. So I recommend you check that out this weekend on the Ticats Audio Network. All right, let's start the show as we normally do, and we do that with the news and notes portion of the show. And the big one, as mentioned, is that training camp set to get underway on Sunday, which means rookie camp is going on right now. But the other big news was that the Ticats announced they had re-signed American defensive back Ciante Evans. Yeah, the 29-year-old started 13 regular season games for the Cats last season. He also started in 2 playoff games where he had 43 tackles last year, 1 tackle for a loss, 1 interception, and 8 pass knockdowns. So very exciting to see Ciante Evans back in the Black and Gold. Ticats also announced that they signed former East Carolina defensive back Michael Witherspoon. He played 14 games with ECU in 2018 and 2019. And just yesterday, the Cats announced that 2 players had been added to the roster, including national receiver Tyler Turner, who spent 2020 with the BC Lions, and also with the University of Alberta last year. And the Ticats also signed American defensive back Balin Buchanan, who played 12 games in his only season at Louisiana Tech University in 2021. Ticats also announced they released national defensive tackle Donovan Glaive. So busy week in Ticats land. It's to be expected as training camp right around the corner. And with training camp, Ticats finalizing their roster and doing so by signing all 6 members of the 2022 draft class. Anthony Federico among them, and the 8th round pick, Jackson Cirillo-Brown. Weren't able to catch up with him in time for last week's show, but did catch up with him this week. Full chat available at ticats.ca, but did want to play this little portion here where he talks about growing up in Hamilton, playing football at Cathedral right down the road here from Tim Hortons Field, and just how special that is for him. Here's what he had to say.
It means a lot. I mean, since getting drafted, a lot of people have been reaching out to me from back in the day, my high school coaches and everybody who supported me along the way. And they've been showing me a lot of love, and I've just been absolutely grateful for it. That's what I like playing football for, man. I like making them proud because they supported me in my journey to get here,
That is Ticats' 8th round pick, Jackson Cirillo Brown, and you can catch the full conversation up at ticats.ca. For more on the draft and training camp, we bring in the assistant GM and director of Canadian Scouting, Drew Allemang. And Drew, you got your rookies in town, training camp starting next week, but let's start with the draft. You've had 10 days to sit on it, 10 days to think about it. Just your overall assessment on how things went, either according to plan or not according to plan, last Tuesday night.
Yeah, we thought things went well, when we kind of recapped everything as a group in the days after. We thought it went well. They're all players that we thought highly of, and we were excited with everyone that we got, and look forward to kind of working with them over training camp and over the season.
Now, a big part of draft night was, of course, the day before, in which you made a deal with trading the number 8 and number 28 overall picks. And acquiring a couple of really good players, from what I've heard from the Edmonton Elks. Your assessment on that deal and the guys you got, were they people you had your eye on for a while?
Yeah, I mean, I think, with every draft, there's a lot of players that you like. You like more players than you really have draft picks. And other teams are also picking those players, and that everyone does a good job with it, and we all end up liking a similar group of players, really. But going back to those two players we acquired their draft year, they were both players that we liked, and I think they've progressed as they've got in the CFL, and for us it was a trade that we felt was the best thing to do for the team, really.
Yeah, and of course, moving up in the global draft to make that pick as well to number 2 overall. Let's talk about Anthony Federico. Played his youth ball in Hamilton. How long have you been following Anthony, and how happy were you to get him at 17?
Yeah, I think we knew about Anthony back when he was he spent some time with the Hamilton Hurricanes, the junior program. And, I think his first year there, he jumped out as, a player, just kind of had some size traits, some length and some athletic ability, and just how he competed. He's got a great motor to him, and he's always kind of getting himself to the right place on the field and making plays. He's since gone, he went to university, and I think he's developed even further as he's matured physically and mentally with the game. We're excited to have Anthony, and think he has some upside as a player, obviously, and it's going to be great to see him on the field coming up here soon.
Yeah, and I loved the fact that this is a guy who wanted to play football, came out of high school, didn't have the marks for it, went to college and really put in the effort to be a pro. So he's got what it takes to showcase his talent at this level. Hopefully at camp next week, we should say. So what's the expectations in a camp like this, where you have preseason games, where it is a quick turnaround to make your first cuts? What are you expecting going into next week?
Yeah, I think we're excited that things are maybe a little bit more back to normal, just the team's able to interact with one another. And obviously, like you said, we have the preseason games, which I think is a great opportunity for all the new players to get in front of the coaches and show what they can do on special teams, show what they can do kind of, under the bright lights, so to speak. And I think it's just a tremendous opportunity for everyone.
Now, I do want to go back to the draft real quick, because you and Winnipeg were two teams who only selected U Sports players, and you've been a draft watcher for a long time. The level of talent coming out of U Sports, have you ever seen it where it's at right now, and where do you see it continuing to grow to?
Yeah, I think I think it everything kind of keeps improving, and we'll look at players, regardless of what program they play for or what level of football. I mean, I think you have to go into it and evaluate them all as a football player. So, I think however we can obtain them, and we just really want good, competitive, physical football players on our team. And, I think this group that we've drafted can do that.
And I know the draft was last week, but last weekend was the East-West Bowl. I know you're already thinking 2023 draft. So what kind of downtime do you have at all between the draft and now? Like I guess there's no such thing as downtime in your world, is there?
No, I mean, it's kind of for now, like we're now kind of into the season really. So, having the East-West in our backyard really was an advantage. I mean, we didn't have to travel far, and it was actually really, it's been 2 years really since we've had that event. And, I think it was good to get back out there and see all the U Sport coaches and get a look at the next year's draft class. So it was really just good to be back out there, and it's kind of kicks us off into, we kind of shift gears. Obviously we have our training camp coming up, but we're kind of, as a scouting department, you kind of start to work into the following season really, when, it's not going to be too long from now where we're getting back out on the road and visiting schools again and focusing on the 2023 draft and season and everything. So that's kind of how things really work in our end.
I think the song "Ain't No Rest for the Wicked." Is that you guys then? You guys right back to work looking at 2023. Drew, I know you're a busy guy with camp right around the corner, literally. So thanks for making some time for me this afternoon. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, Louie. Anytime.
And that is Assistant General Manager and Director of Canadian Scouting, Drew Allemang. Well, you're listening to Ticats Today on the Ticats Audio Network. Louie B here with you. We are 30 days away until the Ticats open their season against the Riders in Saskatchewan. And speaking of Saskatchewan, very pleased to be joined now by former Rough Rider, now a CFL and TSN analyst. It is our friend Glen Suitor. And Suits, I am sitting at Tim Hortons Field. It is a beautiful day. I got the windows open, the sun shining, which can only mean one thing: football right around the corner. Just how are you feeling with training camp getting underway next week?
Just fantastic, and I think it's been a challenging, past 6 months for a lot of reasons and a lot of different narratives that have been out there. But at the end of the day, we're in camps. We're getting ready for a full season, a full training camp, and a full preseason. So here's a bold prediction right out of the gate. We're going to see scoring go up. How much it goes up, I don't know. But if there was a concern about scoring after missing a season and then having a shortened season with really no preseason or training camp, very little training camp, I could see why scoring dropped a little bit. And now it's going to go back up. I hope by a substantial amount, maybe 7 or 8. And keep in mind, all of our quarterbacks across the league are another year in experience. Dane Evans getting his first real chance. Jeremiah over in Ottawa, he's going to be the guy over there. I mean, Vernon Adams, the list goes on. They're a little more experienced. And as they become more experienced with a full training camp and preseason, watch scoring go up this year.
And it's funny you say that. We have an interview with Dane that's going to drop tomorrow on the Ticats Audio Network. But I bring up 3 of those names that you say, and it was 2017, I believe, in camp. It was Vernon Adams, Jeremiah Masoli, Dane Evans, and Johnny Manziel all at camp at the same time. And Dane brought up an interesting point about preseason and how it really is an opportunity for guys who are on the bubble to make an impact. Can you speak to the importance of preseason, not just for the players, but for the coaches as well?
Well, and for offenses, I think on the defensive side of the ball, you can jump into it pretty quickly, and really it's get to your spot in the assignment and then hustle to the football, 12 hats to the football. That's really the philosophy. And I'm obviously totally oversimplifying there, but it really is simpler to have very few reps and jump into a defense and be successful. It's much harder on the offensive side. So that preseason, to get back to your question, is so important and crucial. Even if it's only, let's say, 3 quarters total or 2 quarters total for your starter like Dane Evans. If it's 2 quarters with his receiving core top to bottom, as it looks this year, the starting guys, the starting group, those are so valuable in the reps because they go back and they look at the film, they look at the tape. It's not film anymore, it's now video, and and electronically on your computer. But you look at it on your iPad on the sideline, and you can say, "Oh, I was a yard too deep on that out cut, and now I can make that adjustment." But when you're trying to do that in week 3 of the regular season with the pressure on to win games and get those 2 points, it changes the dynamic. You're almost scrambling to catch up offensively. So it's really crucial, not to mention the hours of practice. Louie, if you and I stood 20 yards apart and played catch and threw the ball 20 times to each other, maybe we'd be successful on 50%. Let's say we'd be good at 50%. Yeah. There'd be some wobbles, there'd be some judgment issues. But if we practiced for a day and then threw those 20, we would increase it to 75, 80%, maybe even 100%. So the point being that, when you're looking at timing, spacing, rhythm, all of those things that are so crucial to offenses, that's what preseason is about. That's what all the reps in camp are about. You get your pads on, you run all those routes. That's where I think we're going to see a change. And then let's see if some of these rule changes help too, like the hash marks and things like that. Let's see on that. I'm not completely convinced on the hash marks are going to make a huge difference. Maybe the second quarterback will be interesting to see as the season goes on. But I'm thinking that we're going to see higher scoring.
I want to stick with Dane Evans because I think it's fair to say that the Ticats' success will depend on his performance, but I think more importantly, him staying healthy. And he addresses that in our talk tomorrow. But what are you expecting to see to that point that he's not competing, he's not splitting reps in camp? He's been here for the last few weeks, especially, but with more guys. He's out there with receivers. I see him every day. The expectations are raised. Does he rise to those expectations?
Yeah, I expect Dane Evans to be an all-star. I really do. And I expect Jeremiah Mazzoli to push him from the Ottawa's perspective. Now, more changes over there than Dane will be going through because he's been in the organization with the same philosophy with Tommy Condell. And so he has got a step up from Jeremiah over in Ottawa. But, yeah, I expect an all-star season from him. Here's the reasons why. I think he has enough experience now, especially in the pressure-packed game, the Grey Cup. He's been in 2 Grey Cups now. And there's going to be a chip on his shoulder to get it done, to kick that door down. So the motivation will clearly be there. He will have to, I won't say struggle, but he will have to get a new feeling for being the guy. When Jeremiah Mazzoli was sort of technically the starter and he was coming off the bench, many times we've said that the fans love the backup quarterback more than any player on the team, because he's going to either come in and save the day. And if he doesn't save the day and you still lose, well, it wasn't his fault really anyway, because he was in a bad situation. So the pressure is very different when you're the guy, and he's got to be able to handle that. But he's 28. He's been through it. He's been the starter in the championship game. That comes with its own group of pressures. And I think he's handled it well. So I expect him to have an all-star season. Let's see what that receiving core looks like. But I love the talent there, and even without Speedy B in the lineup, I think he's going to have the weapons.
Yeah, Braylon Addison, Tim White, Pappy White, two guys who had breakout years last year, and I will say Canadian receiver Tyler Tanowski has been out here almost every day working with Dane, so looking forward to see what he, and not to mention Lamar Durant out there in from BC coming to the Ticats, so lots of excitement around the Ticats. So that being said, I think the Ticats are as good, if not better, than they were last year. Micah Johnson, but I also think the Alouettes are better than they were last year. The Red Blacks are certainly better than they were last year. The Argos are they were the East Division. They won the East Division last year. So is that what's going to prevent the Ticats from winning a Grey Cup? Is the strength of their competition?
No, I don't think that will prevent them. I think it would actually make them stronger to go into that Grey Cup championship if in fact they can get back there and finish the job. Because the West is always strong. The West is always real competitive. And oftentimes that means, you have to go back probably to the Montreal years when AC was their starting quarterback and Anthony Calvillo and they were winning championships there with Mark Trestman. That was a time when, very, very stacked team in Montreal, but they were competing sort of at the level of the West, the entire West. So, the West is always competitive. And that's why when they get into the Cup, they're often favorites. But, Hamilton facing better competition throughout the regular season, have to scratch and claw for every single 2-point win. That's going to make them better down the stretch. Yeah, they've got to stay healthy, all of those things. We're going to be talking about that as camp goes on. Like, everybody's got to stay healthy. And, if they lose this guy, what does that mean? And you look at their depth. But, there's a couple things with Hamilton that's interesting to me. Braylon Addison and where is he going to be? Because when he got hurt, we were all thinking this guy is going to be a 1,700-yard guy. And I think he's capable of it. Now we have to see how he's recovered and, how he looks in the preseason and then into regular season early in the year. But if he can sort of take sort of the 6 catches a game that Speedy B had, and they're going to be fighting over that between White and all those guys in the receiving corps. But, when you had an MOPs are hard to replace. And we could talk about, Speedy B declining a little bit, or, is he small in his injury situation? What is he going to be? He's going to be motivated in Toronto. I'll guarantee you that. But, there's 6 catches a game up for grabs, and Braylon Addison could have a monster season if he's really healthy and confident in his recovery. So really looking forward to that. Love the D-line in Hamilton. Is there going to be a better D-line in the league than the Hamilton D-line?
I don't think so. Up the middle, I think is set. Micah Johnson and Teddy Laurent. It'll be interesting to see how they play off each other. Dylan Wynn is Dylan Wynn. He's an all-star perennial. I think there's a question mark on the weak side, tackle or the weak side end with the loss of Jagarrett Davis. Julian House there is a stud, but Mason Bennett, and this kind of leads into I think Mason Bennett might have the inside track on that defensive end spot for the Ticats. That's not seeing anything, but just knowing the season he had last year. So that brings me into this. He was a rookie last year. The Ticats signed their rookie class of last year. And maybe it's just a coincidence, but I saw this on Twitter. It was the Bombers and the Ticats, all U Sports players. So the teams who have been to the last 2 Grey Cups decided to go all U Sports in their draft. Is that significant? Is that just the way the draft worked out? What do you make of that?
Yeah, first of all, you want to take the best athletes, and and when you have a good team like Hamilton and Winnipeg have, you're really in a position to do that. You don't have to get real heavy in your position specific thoughts. You don't have to look at, say, O-line and we got to load up there no matter who's available. We got to get more O-linemen, that kind of thing. So you can really do that. And that's exactly what Hamilton did in the draft. You got a couple linebackers, you got an O-line and a D-lineman, you got a DB in the draft. So it gives you a chance to maybe find some special team ads that can develop into starters, a little depth in your O-line if you get them all signed and they all make the team, and some D-line help. I think when you're talking about the U Sports element, U Sports has become stronger and stronger every single year. The guys coming out of U Sports are more pro ready every year than they were the year before. And it's great to see. It really is that the teams that can just draft. I think there were more youth sports than ever before, and the percentage was higher than ever before this year. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but I know there was a lot of youth sports guys. So it's a good sign because, I also think that a kid that played at Queens or Guelph or wherever it is that they played their college ball in our country, they're going to have their family, going to be playing in front of their family. They're going to have that, that, especially if they're local to Ontario or wherever. That's one of the reasons I think it's important for sometimes, if everything is equal, to take the kid that's from your backyard, because now he's got friends and family coming. This is a home game all the time for him. He's used to the city, he's used to the field and all of that. So, I'm happy to see youth sports doing the way they're doing it, and I'd love to see more collaboration between pros and youth sports and amateur football in our country. I know we're always working on that, but it can always get better there.
One of those local connections for the Ticats was Jackson Cirillo Brown, who we heard from. He's a Hamilton boy, grew up down the street at Cathedral, or played his high school ball at Cathedral. Then he went out to UBC. And for the second year in a row, UBC's got 3 players selected. The Ticats have Nick Cross, Stavros Katsantonis, now Jackson. Football in BC is specifically, and I'm going to go to you for this one, a nice BC boy. It just seems like I don't want to say it's ahead of anyone, but it seems to be catching up maybe to the rest of the provinces. And I want to give a shout out to our friend Farhan Lalji, who does a great job coaching out there. But what have you seen in your province specifically? And it seems the Ticats have been keeping their eye on UBC.
Well, UBC has had a great program for years, and they're not shying away from recruiting across the country. Obviously, they're bringing in great expertise. I know a couple of coaches that have gone in. Jay Prepchuk has been a coach that has quarterback camps across the country. He's a great sort of teacher of young quarterbacks, and he's worked with UBC for years. I mean, Michael O'Connor spent some time at UBC. He's going to get a chance to back up Nathan Rourke, likely here in Vancouver. So, we're even seeing development at that level, at that position, which, as we haven't seen in the CFL for a long time, where we have a Canadian quarterback this year that is actually going to compete. Now, I know they went down and did some training down south, and Nathan Rourke certainly did. But, it's just a testament to youth sports in general. The competition goes up, the coaches become better, and then the players coming out of those programs are more pro ready if they choose to play pro football, or give it a shot. So I just nothing but and my old guys, SFU, still competing in the NCAA. I'd love to see them in youth sports. I talked to the guys there, and I'd love to see them compete for a Vanier Cup. They've gone a different direction, but there's still great athletes coming out of that school too.
Yeah, it's just I've been covering the league, 7 years now. It's not as long as you, but it just feels like there's momentum right now between youth sports, between this full season. So with that, how does the CFL capitalize on this? How does the league? How do we as broadcasters? Where do we go from 2022 on?
Well, I think we all start from the foundation in any narrative that you might want to create when covering the game. Start from the foundation that you're covering world-class athletes. I think we've sort of lost that. I think because we as a sort of a society up here and as Canadians, we sort of are always looking to compare. We're always looking to see and compare where we are versus what's happening south of the border. And I think we really need to stop doing that. There's no reason for it. You can like both leagues, it doesn't matter. But we are covering as journalists in this country world-class athletes and world-class coaches. And if given an opportunity, everyone, including the Canadians that you see on the field, probably could make NFL rosters. Now, I know there'll be some people who say, I don't know about that, the top 20 or the best in the world and all that. Again, that falls back into the comparison. And we don't need to be comparing. What we need to do is be proud of the work that goes into these kids trying to make a team, their youth sports careers, or if they go down south to college, but they're working as hard as any NFL draft pick. They're preparing as hard as any NFL draft pick, and they're athletic as, let's say 95% of the players in the NFL. So if you want to compare, we've got great athletes you're watching, as good as it gets in the world. Same with the coaches. That's where the foundation should be. Now, does that mean we can't point out mistakes that are made in the league? Of course, that's our job. We have to maintain integrity in that regard. But we can also, if we come from the base that we're watching and covering world-class athletes, then we will be sort of less inclined to just kick it around. And I think that's how we can do it. That's create the narrative from that foundation, and then just be proud. Let's wrap ourselves in the Canadian flag, because world-class athletes on our fields, in our backyards, at affordable price for your family. I sound like I'm selling salesman on this whole thing, but it really is. And I think that's how we do it. We get in and tell these stories of these kids, because there's some great stories out there. There's some world-class athletes participating, among the best in the world. And I will also say this, Louis, and you know this too, but the last 3 minutes of Canadian football are the best 3 minutes in all of sports. The potential is always there for amazing finishes in our sport. It used to be that the NBA in their last 2 minutes was pretty exciting, but now they have so many timeouts that it just kills all the momentum. My opinion. And I'm not trashing the NBA, but I'm just saying our last 3 minutes is the best 3 minutes in any sport in the world. We need to sell that. We need to sell our Canadiana. We need to sell our world-class athletes. We do that. And when I say sell, that doesn't mean going overboard and, cheerleading. You have to report the bad stuff too, but start from that foundation, because that's what we have right in our backyard.
You mentioned the last 3 minutes, and I haven't gotten the chance to ask you this yet. I'm going to put you on the spot, Suits. Better finish to a Grey Cup, 1989 or 2021? What was a better finish? I mean, I know my answer, and they're both. You know what? I actually don't have an answer for that question. But what's your answer, sir?
I'm very biased on that
one.
I'm very, very biased there, because when I watch Ken Austin go to work with 45 seconds to go in the game and get us into field goal range in '89, that was pretty spectacular. Coming off of the Tony Champion catch where he lays out backwards to tie the game. I mean, I don't think there's a better catch ever on either side of the border, if you want to compare. Yeah. So again, biased, but I was about 5 yards from that catch when he made it, and I had the best seat in the house, and I was in awe of that catch. And then it snapped in that we got to come back because we still had time. So but again, last year, 21, that was an example of what our game is and what it can be. Sometimes we will have stinkers. Every sport does. But that was another example of a championship game that goes into overtime. Great plays on both sides of the ball. We didn't need another touchdown from each team to make that exciting. We didn't need higher scoring game on average to make that exciting. That had all the drama and theater of the great championship games that you can remember in any sport. So that's what we have. And it's already there, and the game is not broken. I know that's been the narrative, but the game is not broken. Yes, we can always improve. In fact, it's insulting to say that we want to be status quo and not improve. That's insulting to me, because as an athlete, former athlete, you're always improve. If you stand still, you're dead. You're done. So you got to always improve. I agree with that, but it's not broken. The Grey Cup last year was an example of that. And again, if you want to go to comparisons, the 20 years prior to 21, where you compared the NFL and the CFL scoring on average, we were ahead of them by a touchdown or more on average for all of those years. Not one year in 20 did the NFL score more than us than last year when we missed a season and had to play half a season. So listen, if you want to compare, the facts are there too. Our game is fantastic, and that final 3 minutes, man, that'll get you out of your seat.
Yeah, I go back to '89. The one thing that sticks with me, Mike Kerrigan. I brought it up with him once. I said, people say that '89 Grey Cup was the greatest game ever played, and his response is, not to me. Not to me. I guess he's got a different memory of 89, but at least he had 86 to get to celebrate. So, Suits, I appreciate this. You're a very busy man. I know with training camp just around the corner. Thank you for making time. I appreciate it.
No, I appreciate it, man. Anytime, and I can't wait for the season to kick off. Looking forward to it.
As we all are. Thanks, Suits. That is Glen Suitor from the CFL on TSN, and my thanks to him for joining me, and my thanks to you as well, because we could not do the show without your support. We could not have lasted all off season unless you were there liking, downloading, subscribing to the Ticats Audio Network. So our thanks to you. And the next time you hear my voice on Ticats Today, because you'll hear a brand new exclusive one-on-one interview with Dane Evans tomorrow and a one-on-one interview with Simone Lawrence on the Ticats Audio Network on Saturday. But after that, the next time you'll hear my voice will be at training camp on Ticats Day. I cannot wait to kick off another season here on the Ticats Audio Network. So thank you for your support, and we will talk to you next week. But before that, I do want to give just a couple of shout-outs here. One to my friend Kyle Metler, who is getting married this weekend. Very excited to be standing up alongside with him as one of his groomsmen to be emceeing the wedding. So can't wait for that this weekend. And also I wanted to give a shout out to, and this is more of a keeping in my thoughts, Andrew Nielsen. If you've been around the Ticats for any period of time, you know the name Andrew Nielsen. He has cerebral palsy, and we have gotten a word from one of his best friends, the Duke of Dundas, that he's not doing well. He's in the hospital right now, so our thoughts are going out to Andrew. And I know Andrew is cheering for his Toronto Maple Leafs tonight, so we will as well. And to Andrew and to the Duke of Dundas and to everybody who knows Andrew, just asking you to keep him in your thoughts, this weekend. All right, that'll do it. We're back next week during training camp. Cannot wait until then. For the Ticats Audio Network, I'm Louie B. Hoping you have a great day.